isn't this a lovely party I'm giving? I'm so glad I could come. Tony.
Claudia.
Aren't you a little bit surprised to see me here?
I expected you days ago.
That's why I didn't come sooner.
In the flicker of the silver screen, time was the only enemy that couldn't be defeated by a soft focus lens or a layer of grease paint. Behind the high cheekbones and the million-dollar smiles lay a desperate, calculated secret, a stolen decade. What is the price of immortality in a town that discards women the moment the clock strikes 30? Were these legendary stars merely protecting their careers, or were they running from the haunting reality of their own mortality? Today, we peel back the archival layers of the iconic and the unresolved to reveal the women who rewrote their own histories. Marlene Dietrich. Marlene Dietrich did not just inhabit the screen, she commanded it with a cold, architectural perfection that seemed to defy the natural laws of aging. Known globally as the Blue Angel, she was the ultimate symbol of Teutonic glamour and a sophisticated chic that scandalized and mesmerized the 1930s. However, the legendary silhouette that leaned against lampposts in top hats was built on a foundation of carefully curated shadows and a shifting birth date. Dietrich treated her age like a state secret, engineering a fluctuating timeline that changed depending on whether she was in Berlin, Paris, or Hollywood. The atmosphere of her early career was thick with the scent of heavy cigarette smoke and violet water. In the chilling silence of her darkened dressing rooms, she was known to keep meticulous records, yet she would bridge the gap between decades with a mere stroke of a pen. There was a restless energy in her vanity. She was a woman fighting a silent war against the calendar, using every trick of the trade to maintain her status as the world's most enigmatic siren. After decades of successfully outrunning the truth, she retreated to a small apartment in Paris. She became a prisoner of the very beauty she had fought to freeze in time, refusing to be seen by the public or photographed, terrified that the world would finally see the years she had so elegantly deleted. Her loneliness was the price of her immortality. Mary Miles Minter. Mary Miles Minter was once hailed as the heir apparent to Mary Pickford, a vision of pure angelic innocence with golden curls and wide eyes that captured the heart of the silent film era. Her status in the Golden Age was that of the ultimate child star, a lucrative brand built entirely on the illusion of eternal youth. However, behind the soft lighting of the Paramount lot lay a calculated and cruel deception orchestrated by her mother, Charlotte Shelby. To keep the box office receipts flowing, Mary was forced to live as a preteen long after she had reached adulthood, a living doll trapped in a lie that would eventually fracture her soul. The sensory atmosphere of Mary's life was one of eerie, suffocating stillness. Imagine a nursery filled with expensive porcelain dolls and ruffled dresses belonging to a woman who should have been wearing sophisticated evening gowns. There was a watchful presence in every room, as her mother lurked in the wings, clutching Mary's true birth certificate like a weapon of control. The air in their mansion felt heavy with restless energy, a tragic irony for a girl who was the face of American purity while secretly embroiled in a desperate, forbidden affair with director William Desmond Taylor. When Taylor was found murdered in 1922, the carefully constructed facade crumbled. The public was horrified to discover that their little girl was actually a woman of 20 with a scandalous private life. Mary did not just lose her career in the aftermath, she lost her identity. She spent the next 50 years as a wealthy recluse, surrounded by the ghosts of a childhood she was never allowed to outgrow. Ginger Rogers. Ginger Rogers is remembered as the rhythmic half of the greatest partnership in cinematic history, the woman who famously gave Fred Astaire his while matching his every step in reverse. During the height of the Great Depression, she was the personification of plucky American resilience, a brassy blonde who could sing, act, and dance her way through any hardship. But while her talent was undeniable, her age was a matter of strategic negotiation. To remain the relatable, youthful girl next door that audiences demanded, Ginger and her mother Layla engaged in a systematic trimming of the calendar. This ensured that she remained an ingenue in the eyes of the studio executives at RKO long after her real birth year should have transitioned her into more mature roles. the world of Ginger Rogers was defined by the clatter of tap shoes on hollow, polished sound stages and the blinding glare of white Art Deco sets. In the quiet moments between takes, one might have felt a certain cold spot in the studio archives where her original documents were kept under lock and key. The sensory experience of her career was one of shimmering sequins and sweat, a grueling physical reality hidden behind a veil of effortless grace. She moved through the decades with a watchful intensity, aware that a single wrinkle or a missed step could break the spell of her perpetual youth. There is a tragic irony in a woman who conquered the world through hard work, yet felt the need to lie about the very time it took to master her craft. Her longevity was legendary, but it was fueled by a quiet anxiety about being discarded by an industry that valued freshness over experience. In her later years, she remained a fierce protector of her image, a woman who had danced through 100 lies to keep the music playing. Merle Oberon. Merle Oberon was the hauntingly beautiful star of Wuthering Heights, an actress whose porcelain skin and slanted almond eyes gave her an air of exotic mystery that Hollywood found irresistible. During the Golden Age, she was marketed as an upper-class girl from Tasmania, a narrative designed to hide the reality of her birth in Bombay and her Anglo-Indian heritage. In a segregated industry that had little room for leading ladies of color, Merle did not just lie about her age. She constructed an entirely fictional identity. She spent her career in a state of high-alert grace, knowing that a single crack in her story could lead to her immediate exile from the silver screen. The world of Merle Oberon was one of cloying scents and heavy artifice. She frequently used skin-lightening makeup that was thick and suffocating under the hot studio lights in order to maintain her English rose complexion. While she played the quintessential British heroine on screen, Merle's mother was forced to live in her home disguised as her maid, a silent witness to her daughter's rise and the erasure of their shared history. Merle remained a master of the elegant hedge, never allowing the truth to surface. To keep her secret, Merle had to distance herself from her roots and the people who knew her before she became a star. She lived in a gilded cage of her own making, forever looking over her shoulder at a past she could never acknowledge. She died with her secrets intact, a woman who had conquered the world by becoming someone else entirely. Theda Bara. Theda Bara was Hollywood's first manufacturing symbol, a woman whose entire existence was a masterpiece of studio propaganda. Long before the era of modern PR, Fox Film Corporation created The Vamp, a dark, predatory enchantress who reportedly survived on a diet of lettuce and raw beef. The studio claimed she was the daughter of an Italian artist and an Egyptian princess born in the shadow of the Sphinx. In reality, she was Theodosia Goodman, a nice Jewish girl from Cincinnati, Ohio. To maintain this exotic allure, her age was treated as a fluid concept, trimmed and tucked to ensure she appeared as a timeless, supernatural entity rather than a mortal woman from the Midwest. Theda Bara surrounded herself with heavy incense, velvet draperies, and the constant presence of studio handlers. She was often photographed surrounded by skulls and ravens, creating an atmosphere of restless, occult energy. The chilling irony was that while the public saw a dangerous seductress, Theodosia was often a prisoner of her own costume, squinting through thick kohl eyeliner and heavy beaded headpieces that made every movement a struggle. She was a woman playing a character 24 hours a day, forbidden from speaking in public lest her Ohio accent shatter the illusion of her mysterious foreign origins. The emotional payoff of Theda's story is the tragedy of being a pioneer who was eventually discarded by the very machine that built her. When the vamp craze faded in the early 1920s, Theodosia tried to return to the screen as a normal woman, but the public refused to accept her without the fangs and the finery. She had spent so many years lying about her age and her soul that she found herself a stranger in her own industry. Her legacy is a haunting reminder of the high cost of fame in a town that prefers a beautiful lie to a mundane truth. She died in quiet obscurity, the woman who had once been the most dangerous flame in Hollywood, eventually extinguished by the passage of time she tried so hard to manipulate. Gracie Allen. Gracie Allen was one half of America's most beloved comedy duo, Burns and Allen, a woman whose illogical logic and high-pitched delivery made her a household name in radio and television. To the public, Gracie was a delightfully zany figure who lived in a world of her own. But behind the scenes, she was a disciplined professional who understood the value of a youthful image. For decades, Gracie Allen's real age was a closely guarded secret, a mystery that she and her husband, George Burns, treated with the same comedic timing as their best routines. By the time she became a television icon in the 1950s, the world believed she was years younger than the woman who had actually started her career in the grueling days of vaudeville. Gracie Allen's world was defined by the crackle of live radio microphones and the bright, unforgiving lights of early television sets. There was a restless energy in her performances, a frantic pace of dialogue that left audiences breathless. However, in the quiet of her dressing room, there was a watchful intensity. Gracie was known for her meticulous grooming and her refusal to let the cameras catch her in anything less than a state of polished perfection. While Gracie played the scatterbrain, she was actually the one who managed the family's complex social and professional schedules with a steel-trap mind. She simply stopped counting the years when she reached the pinnacle of her fame. The payoff of Gracie's story is found in the deep, protective love of George Burns, who helped her maintain the illusion of youth until the very end. When she passed away in 1964, her true age was finally revealed, surprising a public that had grown up believing she was their eternal contemporary. There is a heartbreaking beauty in the way she chose to leave the stage, refusing to let the world see her decline. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was the quintessential creation of the Hollywood studio system, a woman who willed herself into royalty through sheer ambition and a legendary work ethic. Before she was the chic, shoulder-padded icon of the 1940s, she was Lucille Lesueur, a girl from a broken home in Texas who danced her way out of poverty. To the executives at MGM, Joan was a blank slate, and together they drafted a history that was as polished as her on-screen persona. This reinvention included a birth year that drifted backward as her fame climbed forward, ensuring she remained a contemporary of the new starlets even as she entered her third decade in the industry. Joan Crawford was relentlessly disciplined. Imagine the chilling, sterile scent of rose water and ice, which she famously used to tighten her skin every morning before the sun rose. There was a watchful, restless energy in her movements, the calculated poise of a woman who knew that the camera was a predator that fed on the young. However, while she played the sophisticated socialite, she never truly escaped her childhood. She kept her true age hidden behind a mask of heavy Max Factor makeup and a fierce, unblinking gaze that dared anyone to question her timeline. Joan fought so hard to stay relevant that she became a caricature of the very youth she tried to preserve. Her legacy is one of iron-willed reinvention, the story of a woman who traded her past for a permanent seat in the pantheon of the immortals. Mae West. Mae West was the undisputed queen of the double entendre, a woman who famously declared that she was not a model of any age, but a masterpiece of her own making. During the Golden Age, she was the savior of Paramount Pictures, using her subversive wit and corseted curves to challenge the censors and the clock. While she preached that age was merely a number, Mae was notoriously protective of her own, meticulously shaving years off her vaudeville origins to ensure she appeared as a contemporary force of nature. She didn't just lie about her age, she mythologized it, creating a persona that was perpetually in her prime. The irony of Mae's life was that while she played the liberated woman, she was a prisoner of her own lighting, insisting on a specific fountain of youth filter for every frame. Mae refused to ever grow old in the eyes of her fans. She remained Diamond Lil until her final breath, a woman who proved that confidence is the only true defense against the mirror. Dolores Del Rio. Dolores Del Rio was the first Latin American star to achieve true international superstardom, a woman whose face was once described by filmmakers as the most perfect ever captured on celluloid. During the Golden Age, she was the personification of aristocratic Mexican elegance, a high society beauty who transitioned from silent films to talkies with a seamless liquid grace. However, her timelessness was a carefully managed illusion. To maintain her status as a romantic lead in an industry that was notoriously fickle toward aging actresses, Dolores and her handlers maintained a birth date that shifted subtly through the years. She famously slept 16 hours a day to preserve the luminosity of her skin and remained a perpetual 30-year-old in the eyes of the press for nearly 2 decades. The irony of Dolores Del Rio's life was that while she was celebrated as a natural wonder, her schedule was a rigid, disciplined defense against the passage of time. The cold spots in her Hollywood biography were filled with stories of her youth in Durango, but she kept the specific numbers of her past shrouded in a veil of mystery. The emotional payoff of her story is her triumphant return to Mexico, where she reinvented herself once again as the mother of Mexican cinema. She proved that while Hollywood might discard a woman for her age, true talent and dignity are immortal. Claudette Colbert. Claudette Colbert was the definitive, sophisticated leading lady of the 1930s, a French-born star who combined a razor-sharp wit with an impeccable sense of comic timing. During her golden age peak, she was the highest-paid actress in Hollywood, yet her professional dominance was matched only by her legendary obsession with her image. To the public, she was the eternally youthful, runaway heiress of It Happened One Night. But behind the scenes, Claudette was a master of technical deception. She famously refused to be filmed from her right profile, a rule so strict that film sets were redesigned to accommodate her. This vanity was not just about her nose, it was a calculated defense against the shadows of time that began to settle in her late 30s. Claudette Colbert's world was one of bright, overlit sound stages and the restless energy of a woman who checked every camera angle herself. There was a watchful, almost clinical intensity in her gaze as she monitored the lighting rigs to ensure her face remained a smooth porcelain mask. The atmospheric irony of her life was that while she played the effortless, breezy socialite, she was a prisoner of her own precision. The cold spots in her studio biography were the years she quietly shaved off to remain a contemporary of younger leading men like Clark Gable and Fred MacMurray. She eventually stepped away from the cameras when she could no longer control the frame, choosing to remain frozen in the public's mind as the perfect, ageless professional. Loretta Young. Loretta Young was the epitome of ethereal, high-fashion grace, a woman whose career spanned nearly 6 decades of Hollywood history. During the Golden Age, she was the steel butterfly, a devoutly Catholic star known for her moral rectitude and her sweeping, dramatic entrances in billowing silk gowns. However, the pristine image she cultivated was a shield for a life of complex, hidden truths. Beyond her secret pregnancy with Clark Gable, Loretta was a master of the chronological pivot. Starting her career as a mere child in the silent era, she found that as she matured into a leading lady, the years she had spent on screen were working against her. To remain the radiant, virginal ingenue that her contracts demanded, she and her sisters, also actresses, quietly adjusted their birth dates, creating a collective family fog around their true ages. Ironically, while Loretta Young was celebrated as a saintly figure, she was a prisoner of her own perfection. Her public records were the years she simply chose to forget, replacing them with a narrative of eternal, polished youth. Loretta experienced profound loneliness of maintaining a facade for 50 years. She lived in a house of mirrors, where the only reflection allowed was the one that didn't age. Irene Dunne. Irene Dunne was often called the First Lady of Hollywood, a title she earned through a rare combination of operatic vocal talent, impeccable comedic timing, and a dignified presence that commanded respect from moguls and audiences alike. During the Golden Age, she was a 5-time Academy Award nominee who moved effortlessly between tear-jerking melodramas like Love Affair and the zany world of screwball comedy. Yet, for a woman so celebrated for her grounded, ladylike demeanor, Irene was surprisingly elusive regarding her entry into the world. To the public and the press, she was the timelessly elegant heroine, but behind the scenes, she was a master of the chronological smokescreen, quietly pushing her birth date forward by several years to ensure her career as a leading lady started on a youthful note. Irene Dunne was a fan of polished mahogany and expensive perfume. She had the restful energy of a woman who never let her guard down. There was a chilling precision in the way she managed her public records, ensuring that the cold spots in her early Kentucky history remained shrouded in a soft focus haze. The atmospheric irony of her life was that while she played the quintessentially honest and reliable wife on screen, she was a prisoner of her own professional vanity. She moved through the decades with a serene intensity, aware that in a town obsessed with the next new thing, an extra 5 years could be the difference between a starring role and a supporting turn. Her legacy is one of class and the subtle, iron-willed deception required to remain a lady in a world that rarely treated women with such longevity. Ruth Chatterton. Ruth Chatterton was a powerhouse of the early talkie era, a woman whose theatrical pedigree and mid-Atlantic accent made her the go-to star for sophisticated woman's world dramas. During the Golden Age, she was one of the few actresses who could command a salary that rivaled the biggest male stars, yet her professional dominance was matched by a restless energy that frequently saw her seeking thrills outside the soundstage. To the public, she was the dignified, mature leading lady of Dodsworth, but Ruth was a master of the chronological pivot. As she transitioned from the Broadway stage to the Hollywood screen, she found that the years she had spent establishing her reputation were suddenly a liability in a town that craved fresh faces. To compensate, she and her handlers frequently adjusted her birth date, creating a shifting timeline that allowed her to remain a contemporary of her younger leading men. Ruth Chatterton had a high-altitude adrenaline and the clinical intensity of a woman who flew her own planes across the country. She moved through the decades with a fierce, unblinking gaze, aware that in a world of high stakes, a lie about one's age was just another calculated risk. The emotional payoff of Ruth's story is the quiet dignity with which she eventually traded the screen for the writer's desk. She proved that a woman's life could have many acts, regardless of the numbers on a birth certificate. Corinne Griffith. Corinne Griffith was known as the Orchid of the Screen, a silent film star whose ethereal beauty was so profound that she was once considered the most successful actress in the world. During her Golden Age peak, she commanded a staggering salary and lived in a mansion that rivaled a European palace. However, as the talkies arrived and her youth began to fade, Corinne's relationship with the truth became increasingly surreal. To maintain her status as a vibrant lead, she did not just shave off a few years, she reportedly attempted to assume the identity of her own younger sister. This bizarre chronological pivot created a shifting history that left even her closest associates in a state of confusion. Corinne Griffith was a woman who refused to let the light hit her from the wrong angle. There was a chilling intensity in her gaze as she navigated the cold spots of her own biography, reinventing her childhood with every interview. The atmospheric irony was that while she was celebrated as a natural wonder, she was a prisoner of a desperate, manufactured youth. Corinne experienced a haunting isolation in her later years. She spent her final decades insisting on her fabricated age with a fierce, unblinking conviction. Her legacy is a testament to the high cost of a beauty that becomes a cage. Zsa Zsa Gabor. Zsa Zsa Gabor was the pioneer of being famous for being famous, a Hungarian socialite who turned the aging process into a glamorous performance art. During her peak, she was a whirlwind of diamonds, feathers, and the iconic Da Ling, a woman who treated her birth certificate like a rough draft. To the public, she was the eternally sparkling diamond of the Gabor sisters. But behind the scenes, she was a master of the chronological smokescreen. She famously claimed that she was as young as she felt, frequently shaving a decade off her history to remain the ultimate ageless coquette of the talk show circuit. Zsa Zsa Gabor was a woman who never let a camera catch her in a moment of stillness. There was a chilling precision in the way she curated her public records, ensuring that her European youth remained a shimmering, soft-focus mystery. The atmospheric irony was that while she played the liberated woman, she was a prisoner of her own legendary beauty. Zsa Zsa refused to ever leave the stage. She proved that if you tell a lie with enough conviction and a wink, the world will eventually believe you. Her legacy is one of defiant, iron-willed glamour. In the high-stakes theater of the Golden Age, the camera was a relentless observer, and for a leading lady, the calendar was the only adversary that could not be silenced by a clever script or a flattering lens. These 15 icons did not merely manipulate birth certificates, they waged a sophisticated, desperate campaign for professional survival in an industry designed to discard them the moment the first shadow of experience appeared on their faces. The historical legacy of these stars remains a collection of profound contradictions. We recognize the staggering weight of their ambition and the suffocating oversight of the studios that claimed ownership of their identities. There is a touching irony in the fact that the more they choreographed their youth, the more they became casualties of their own crafted illusions. The missing years in their biographies are more than just omitted dates. They represent the authentic moments of human life they sacrificed to remain immortal in the collective imagination of their audience. In a world that only loves you when you are young, is a lie really a sin, or is it a survival tactic? If your livelihood, your social value, and your very legacy depended on the maintenance of a static, youthful facade, where would you draw the line? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you have a passion for the untold mysteries of Hollywood history and the secrets behind the silver screen, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Thank you for watching.